Welcome back to part 13 of elementary logic. In this video, I'm going to take up reduction of sentences to logical form, that is conversion or reducing sentences and converting it to its logical forms. This topic is as per the syllabus of first year BA LLB SEM 1 from Mumbai University. Let's get into the video. Reducing sentences to their logical forms involves converting natural language statements into precise logical expressions. This process is crucial in logic and legal reasoning as it eliminates ambiguity and allows for systematic analysis. Logical forms enable legal practitioners to identify the structure of the arguments, test its validity, and apply laws consistently. Alright. So what are the steps for converting our normal language sentence or statements into its logical propositions? First, now understanding these steps is very important because this is what will help us to convert our statements into its equivalent logical propositions. First, we determine the subject and the predicate both in the declarative sentences. Identify the antecedent and the consequent. Now, I explained this antecedent and consequent comes in a conditional statement, and in a declarative sentences, subject and predicate appears. Now, antecedent is if, consequent is then. Next, once we identify the components of the statement, then we have to classify the sentence, whether it is universal, particular, this is all or no, and so on. Or is it conditional, disjunctive, or negative? If then, or not. Negative is for not. Then once we identify the component and then we classify the sentence whether it is universal or particular, we apply the logical symbol. Now we will use the symbol mirrored A for all. Wherever we get a statement, universal statement, we'll apply the word for all. E is there exist or existential. This is for the not. Right arrow pointing is if then, that is conditional statement. And V for or to represent all the logical structures. Then we simplify it to its standard form. We remove the extraneous elements and rewrite the statement in a logical framework. This is the final conclusion that we will come to. Alright, what are the type of sentences and their logical forms? One is universal statement, particular statement, conditional statement, and negative statements. So we are going to learn these four of them. Universal statements states all lawyers are professionals. Now to convert this, we say for all X, then X is a lawyer, where LX is X is a lawyer, PX is X is a professional. So we put this as rather here LX, and as for professionals we use PX. We use a capital letter to represent the terms. Let's look at the particular statement. For a particular statement we will use existential symbol. That is for some there exists an X. For some contracts there exists an X. That is EX. or reverse EX symbol. Contract stands for X, CX stands for X is a contract, and VX stands for X is void. So we say, how do we read this? We read this as for some X, for some X, if X is a contract, X is void. Conditional statements. This is how it will look like in a normal language or natural language. If a contract lacks consideration, it is void. So we have VX, and for contract lacks consideration, we have LX. We can use a different symbol also. We could have used CX also. It wouldn't have made any difference until unless we do mention here what that symbol is, what it is representing. So LX is representing contracts that lack consideration. Alright, so for all X, if LX, then VX, that is, if it lacks consideration, then it is void. So it is conditional, if then. This is OR statement, CX or VX. Some contracts are void. Sorry, this is AND. So if it is void and it's a contract, then it is invalid or void. Negative statements. Natural language. No minors are eligible to vote. So for no, again we'll use the universal symbol. For all X, we read this as for all X. If X is a minor, then is eligible to vote, and then we negate it because we say no minors are eligible to vote. So when we are writing it always as positive. X is eligible to vote, and then we put a negate symbol to represent not eligible to vote. Alright, let's move on to understand where we can apply the logical forms in legal arguments. First, it brings clarity. There is a validity testing that we can do, and from that we can do some kind of decision making. So logical forms reduce the vagueness of natural language. So basically it makes it more precise, ensuring clear interpretation. Logical expressions help assess whether arguments follow logically from their premises. And decision making. Courts use logical analysis to evaluate evidence, identify contradictions, and derive conclusions. Let's look at few of the question answers. Define the process of reducing sentences to logical forms. So the definition of the conversion is basically it is a process of converting natural language statements into its precise logical expressions to enable systematic analysis. What are the components of a conditional statement? Conditional statement is if then. So if is represented by antecedent, then is represented by consequent. Convert some evidence is unreliable into its logical form. So for some we use for some X. This is how it is written. Existence. That is for some X there exists. Okay, this is how you have to read it. EX stands for is evidence. X is evidence, and it is unreliable. So UX. So both needs to be. So whenever we are using the existential symbol, we'll use the AND symbol. We'll check this in the more examples that will follow this. What does the symbol reverse A represent or a mirrored A represent? It represents for all. This is how you have to read it. It is showing universality in logical expressions. How is a negative statement represented in logic? It is represented by the negation operator or not. Alright, let's look at question answers. Which of the following is a universal statement? So all contracts are valid because all represents the symbol for all. So this is a universal symbol. In logic, the symbol this L represents negation. Keep checking your answers also. The logical form for all x, there exists for x some m which is not Vx. So this is almost like a minor. So they're saying all minors. So this will of course mean all or no. So all, okay. So basically there's a negation symbol here. So it will mean no minors are eligible to vote. This is what it means. What is the antecedent in the statement if a person commits a crime they are punished? So the antecedent is a person commits a crime. It is represented by the symbol if. If they had asked what is the precedent in the statement, so whatever follows they are punished, then they are punished. This is the entire precedent. Which of this is a particular statement? Particular statements is the one which starts with some. Some evidence is unreliable or reliable. Some evidence is reliable. Let's go with fill in the blanks. The process of reducing sentences to logical forms is essential for the process of reducing sentences to its logical form is essential for logical analysis. The symbol mirrored A, I'll say that as mirrored A, represents dash in logical notation. So this is for all or universality in logical notations. If a statement is valid, it is admissible, can be written in the logical form as for all x. How do you write it? For all x will be written as for all x there exists. So this will be written as this. For all x there exists. So here for statement we can take statement is valid. It is admissible. So we can either say Sx, and for admissible we can say Ax. So we say here Sx implies Ax. Okay, we have to use the implication because if the statement is valid, that itself implies that it is admissible. So we have to use the implication statement. If the statement is valid, it is admissible. So here itself it's an indication of the to be which symbol to be used. We have to use the right arrow pointing. Alright. A statement that declares something about all members of a class is called a dash statement. Is it a declarative? What kind of statement is it? Universal statement. A statement that declares something about all members of a class is called a universal statement. Which are the universal propositions? They are A and E propositions. The negation operator is used to express dash in logical form, negativity or not. Okay, so this concludes our topic on reducing sentences to its logical forms. Let's look at few of the more examples of conversion in detail. Okay, let's look at few examples. All professors are expert in their field. Whenever we use the all symbol, so for all x, x is a professor, px stands for professor, that is x is a professor, and expert stands for EX stands for X is an expert in their field. Now, wherever we have the all symbol or a universal symbol, it basically implies that if it's a professor, they will be experts. Second, some animals are not domesticated. Now, if it is an animal, it needs to be domesticated, or basically it is domesticated. But some animals are not domesticated. So whenever you use some, basically we are saying EX, which is basically meaning for some X. For some X, there are animals and they are not domesticated. So we have to use the negation symbol. So normally when we mention here where AX and DX means what, we have to always talk in positive sense. So DX we say is domesticated, but here in the sentence it was not domesticated. But when we write here, when we state what DX means, we have to state it in positive sense. Once we state it in positive sense, then we have to put the symbol of negation. So then the actual sentence makes sense, where it says that for animals are not domesticated. If it is, of course, if once we have the if symbol here, it means it's an implication. So then for this kind of sentences, it's very simple. For all x, for all x, for x is a holiday, x is closed. So for all x, hx implies cx. That is, if there is a holiday, it is implied that the office will be closed. Next, no one is above law. Again, this is a universal symbol. So we use for all x, px. Now, no one. Now, this is a negative sentence. So what we have to do is when we state here where abx or whatever, we can even we don't need to say or above the law, we can just say law also, or above also, ax also, and then we can state here that ax means x is above the law. Now we have to talk it, we have to, when we state here, we have to say state it as a positive sense, and when we write it, we have to use the negation symbol. I hope you have understood. Next, some politicians are corrupt. So when we use some, we have to write for some x there exist these politicians and they are corrupt. So wherever we are using existential symbol, we have to use the and symbol. This states this is a representation of and symbol. Okay, next is if. Again it's an if, very simple. This is the most simplest statement. For all x, wherever there is if, we have to represent it by universality symbol. For all x there exists an defendant who is innocent, and that implies that the case will be dismissed. All students who complete the assignment will receive a grade. Now this is a little bit complicated, so let's understand this. Sx represents student. For all students who complete the assignment will receive a grade. Now there are three variables in this. So first we have to state that these two are an and, they both have to be true only. So basically what we have to understand is whether that statement implies that both the terms or both the parts of that sentence, of that proposition, if only if they are true, then the conclusion will be true. So this is one premise, all students. Then say second premise, who complete the assignment. So these both need to be true, then only they will receive a grade. So that is why we use the and symbol. So students completing their grade, that is and. Only if this is true, this implies gx, which means they'll receive the grade. Please let me know in the comment section if you have not understood any one of them. I may try to include it in any other video that I do it in the future. Or maybe in the comment section only I may explain it. Some evidence in the case is circumstantial. Again, some, for some x, there exists some evidence which will be circumstantial. Evidence in the case is circumstantial. So both need to be true. Then only the evidence is considered as circumstantial. Ninth, if a contract is void, it cannot be enforced. Again, we can represent this by cx also. It doesn't matter. We have to use vx only, but try to use the most appropriate that you think would be representing this entire particular part of that sentence. So it cannot be enforced. All right. So for all x, there exists some contracts which are void, which implies that they can be enforced. Remember what I've said, they can be enforced, and then we use the negation symbol and say which cannot be enforced. So when we write it in positive. Again, I'm repeating this. Okay, next is no criminals are above the law. So when we use no, it means for all x, criminal cx, above the law abx. So for all x, there are criminals, which implies for no x, that is universality, negative. So we are using the negative symbol here. For all x, there are criminals who are not above the law. For all x, there are criminals who are above the law. First, who are above the law, and then we use the negative negation symbol, say not above the law. So this is always written in positive. Remember to write this where cx and abx stands for. This needs to be put in the exams, and this will come. All right. So I hope this is all this conversion of normal sentence, language sentence into its logical equivalent is clear. A logical symbol. Thank you very much for staying around and listening to this entire video. If it helped, to share, subscribe, like, or whatever, and share it with your friends. Of course, that is the most important. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.